eyes deceive me, or did one agent just do all of that? Yep, if you are unfamiliar with the reign of Astra in Valorant, then you are in for a real treat. If you experienced these crazy times firsthand, I wonder if you remember just how dominant Astra was and how much she changed the entire meta of the game. Regardless, one thing is certain, nothing was the same after Astra was introduced to us on March 2nd of 2021. This is the agent that changed Valorant forever. My name is Braden, and welcome to Valorant Guides. Disguised under a host of unique and complex abilities, Astra's dominance in post-plant scenarios and map control would soon shatter the Valorant meta, stunning everyone from pros to casual players alike. Let's dive into exactly what made Astra such a broken agent. How Astra broke pro play. March 2nd, 2021. Astra goes live in Valorant. Almost immediately, people start to become aware of how strong she is. Her pick rate skyrockets. Once she's released into pro play in April of 2021, most comps sub her in as the controller, sometimes having two controllers with Viper as a secondary. This is a drastic change as pro play started to move away from the two duelist meta and began to focus heavily on pairing util to execute on sites and hold bomb. Her ability to take sites single-handedly based on her utility alone was insane. For instance, C site on Haven, she could stun backsite, smoke garage, and CT and pull close corners in 10 seconds or less, severely limiting where people could play effectively. Combining this with other agents' utilities, it quickly became extremely hard to stay on site while defending, as pretty much every angle was going to get hit by a pull or stun or some sort of utility that would recon or damage you. Add on the fact that her util has so much chemistry with other agents, execs would be able to clean off the entire site. No angle could be held without some piece of util hitting it. So pro players were forced into retake scenarios almost every round. Furthermore, she gets even stronger by the amount of map control she has. She could do this execute from anywhere on the map. In her astral form, she could navigate the entire map, setting up execs while lurking, allowing for her team to gain tons of map control. Controllers like Brim and Omen, who have ranges on their smokes, were at a loss as they couldn't provide their team with nearly as much support as Astra while being on other sites. Pros were having to adapt to this new meta, which drastically slowed down the game as well. Site takes would often not even occur until the last 20 seconds of a map, as so much of the Astra meta relied on dominating the map. How she changed post-plant. Astra's influence on how the game was played didn't stop here. She completely changed the way that post-plant was handled as well. For instance, her pull could take enemies off the bomb for 3 to 5 seconds, and if timed right, they couldn't get half on the bomb either. On top of that, she could again use this ability from anywhere on the map, and it recharged. This means that she could use the ability on the initial take, then save a star, and have it recharged in time for a post-plant. So players were unaware of where she was playing the post-plant, then a simple jump peek to check when the opponent taps another 3 to 4 seconds later, and peeking after stunning. This almost guarantees the ability to defend the bomb for half of the time to detonation, 45 seconds, and accompanied with a pair of KJ or Viper mollies that covers the entire bomb duration by itself, all without having to peek the bomb. So retaking the site and successfully defusing took a huge effort. Scenarios in which retakers were successful were slim to none. There were a few scenarios, however, that did make it possible. Successful flanks were imperative to winning the retake, in which the player would kill the agents with post-plant util, especially Astra. Additionally, the pull would make enemies vulnerable. This meant that anyone trying to defuse would be 2 bullets to the chest from a Vandal for another 5 seconds after the pull was over. Once again, this combined with other agents' damaging abilities like Shock Dart, any sort of molly or grenade, would make it so that trying to defuse with an Astra still alive was just plain difficult. As you can guess, most of this happened in pro play, where there were plays that teams would run based on how the round was going. The level of organized team play at the pro level is far beyond what we see even in Radiant matches, so Astra's chemistry was even stronger at this caliber of play. Teams running her, which it was rare to see a team not doing so, had all of these cross-chemistry abilities running rampant in their playbooks. Map control dominance. We mentioned previously this concept of map control, her ability to do whole takes by herself and have util to get enemies' teams off the usual peaks. Her util having 5 stars, and on top of that, the ability to fake the smokes opened up her map control even more. Astra being able to set up the whole execute from the opposite side of the map map, only to pull the stars back, wait for them to recharge, and then hitting the side that she's on helped her map control even more. The meta shift didn't stop just in game 2. This also shifted the NA run and gun meta, which had dominated pre-Astra. Sentinel's 9-0 run at Reykjavik was right before Astra was allowed into pro play. But as soon as she was, NA was forced into this new meta, and NA pros had a lot to say about it.
I'm not seeing any variety, and Valorant's done fucking nothing about it for so long. Astra's so OP, and Riot just so dumb. They have these other characters and they fucking don't realize.
You can run jetless comps, whereas like Astra is so oppressive as like a character that when there's like an Astra present, she can do so much and control so much of the map at once. Like Jet can like op somewhere and control like one portion of the map, but like Astra can show presence everywhere. She can take back orbs, fake smokes.
In this new meta, EU would go on to absolutely dominate, with NA teams falling off hard. This was largely due to the fact that Astra's abilities played heavily into the EU meta, which consisted of hard defaults and executes that used loads of util to clear angles instead of going out and swinging. In fact, the finals for Worlds was just 2 EU teams playing each other, Ascend and Gambit, with Ascend eventually winning after a contested series of matches. Oftentimes in this meta, executes wouldn't even happen until the last 15 to 20 seconds of a round, just to catch any defenders who were being impatient or greedy with their peaks. This forced players to play with so much more caution and not to take wide angles on site or even playing off-site completely and holding for retakes. Clearly, Astra's change in meta had tilted too far in her favor. And here's what Riot did about it. The aftermath. Almost exactly a year later, and that's right, it took a year for this to happen, Riot's answer was to nerf Astra to the ground. Clearly, Riot was aware of just how much the meta had changed, and they did this by decreasing her stars from 5 to 4, increasing cooldowns drastically, and decreasing the size of her pull. On top of this, they buffed both Brim and Omen a considerable amount, which led to a huge balancing act within the controller class. Viper still remained untouched at this point, but she would also be slightly too dominant, and they would go on to issue a slight nerf for her as well. Astra's util was just not comparable to how it was before, so many people who mained her had to move back to older agents to stay competitive. In the pro scene, Astra's pick rate plummeted as other controllers were equally as viable as her and could cater more to aggressive teams, so pro players began to use her controller counterparts over her far more frequently. Do you think that this drastic patch was the right way to correct the imbalance in the controller class? Or more so, do you even consider old Astra to be broken, or was she just the next step in Valorant's evolution? If you haven't yet, please subscribe. We have loads more content on the way, and I can't wait to share it with you. This has been Valorant Guides. My name is Braden. Stay amazing, and we will see you in the next video.